Welcome to Club Soda's Mindful Drinking Festival. We're online, global, and as always, absolutely free. Hi, I'm Drew, and I'm one of the co-founders of Club Soda.
And I'm Laura, the other co-founder of Club Soda. We help you change your drinking in ways that help you live well. So whether you're looking to cut down, stop for a bit, or quit, you can find what you need from podcasts and books and courses on joinclubsoda.com. This festival, we've brought you an amazing lineup from over 100 people from across the world.
And our programme this time really is global.
Every day starts down under with me, Sarah. As well as organising the festival in Australia, I spend my time looking for alcohol-free alternatives and tips for people who choose not to drink, but who still want to live a social, fun and adventurous life.
And I'll be wrapping up each day here in the States. I'm Amanda, your US festival host and coordinator, and I'm also a mindset coach who helps women change their relationship with alcohol so that they can start living their most authentic life.
Each day with a rolling programme of inspirational panels, conversations, social events, and opportunities to discover new low and low alcohol drinks.
So whether you want inspiration to change your drinking,
Or to connect with other people,
or you want to discover and enjoy a new low and no alcohol drink,
The Mindful Drinking Festival is for you.
cheers!
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 cheers.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We are here for the Alcohol and Creativity Mindful Drinking Festival panel discussion. I'm Liz, and you can see we've got 4 other awesome folk come to join us to have this chat about alcohol and creativity. So hi, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us. So first of all, I'm going to introduce everybody so we know who everyone is. So first of all, Janet Devlin. We have, who on my screen anyway is just down there below me. So to say about Janet, Janet rose to fame on X Factor in 2011. I was there cheering you on, Janet. And she's been making music ever since. And she quit alcohol because it was taking a serious toll on her life and her creativity, which we may hear a bit more about in a bit. And her recent album, Confessional, which has an accompanying book, also charts her journey into sobriety. And then we also have Sharon Walters, who is an award-winning mixed media artist from London. She creates handmade collages featuring women of African descent. And your most recent series of pieces, Sharon, which is called Seeing Ourselves, I understand the self-portrait, is that the one that's behind you at the moment, is on exhibition today?
Yeah, it's on exhibition today. It's the first time it's being sold.
Yeah.
It's an edition of 5. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So that's amazing. Really gorgeous. And you quit alcohol 18 months ago, right?
I did.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, and then we have Ill Tone, aka Chris. And Chris is a Canadian hip hop artist from Vancouver Island. Chris writes and produces his own records, and you can check them out on Spotify, which you should, because they're wicked. Chris talks about his struggles in his music with alcohol, and he gave up 15 months ago. And last but not least, of course, is Katash, who is a model and DJ and fitness instructor. And Katash also has her own clothing range, which is called Who's Jardin Again. And she gave up alcohol 2 years ago. So, hello everybody. Okay, so I think, and I'm Liz, by the way. I'm a songwriter and a producer, and I write about alcohol on my blog, The Alcohol Spell. So we're going to talk about alcohol and creativity, because obviously everybody here is a professional creative. We've all given up alcohol, and I guess we share a lot in common as to why we gave up alcohol. But let's get into that now. Let's start with you, Janet. What do you think, in what way was alcohol harming your creativity, do you think?
Oh gosh, in lots of ways. So basically it got to the point where I had to cancel all my writing sessions because I was not trusted to turn up without being drunk or hungover. So basically it stopped me from that part of my life. I also just stopped writing because I just didn't want to exist, so I didn't want to write anything. So it just took all of my ability to write away from me, essentially.
Yeah, there's a lot of other people nodding here at the sort of either hungover or drunk sort of cancelling sessions. Katash, you were sort of nodding at that. Is that something that you identify with as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Being a DJ, sometimes you turn up for a set. Your set's supposed to probably be the opening set at 12, or maybe the set after the DJ performs, and then the DJ runs late. So then you run late. No, alcohol, I think, catches up. So drink by drink, it catches up. So if you start drinking early, thinking that your set's going to be at 12, you might be fine. By the time you actually do your set, you're going to be drunk. And trying to time while you're drunk is not the one. First of all, it impairs your vision, so you can't even see that well. So definitely.
Yeah. So, and it's that kind of thing of not really showing up, isn't it? So you're there, but you're not really there. I think that's something that, we all, especially if you're hungover.
You're not putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, you can't, can you? What about you, Chris? Does that ring bells for you too?
Definitely rings some bells. I remember trying to play the timing game so I can have a certain number of drinks before I hop up on stage, and I could never hold myself to that limit. Once I start, I can't stop, and many performances were ruined by my inability to control my drinking patterns. So I'd get up, 10, 15 drinks deep and totally bomb my set in not a good way, and feel embarrassed afterwards, and have to get up and make up some, BS lie about why I had, why I was unable to perform the night before. And it put me on bad terms with promoters and booking agents and other artists within the community, the hip hop community where I'm from. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. Eventually, I couldn't handle the workload either, just as Janet was saying, I manage myself as an artist. I produce my own songs. I engineer them. I write them, and all those things throughout the day that have to align for me to be successful at what I do. I could no longer handle the workload and the amount of tasks that I had to complete throughout the day. So basically every facet of it was ruined by my alcoholism.
I really hear that, actually. And something that Sharon said to me, we were talking the other day about this, was just, Sharon, how much creativity, how much more productive you've been since you've given up. And that's what Chris is just saying. As an artist, when you're doing so much yourself, you kind of don't have the time when you're also drinking, do you?
Before making the series, I wasn't really creating at all. So I am a mum of two. I was focusing on being a mum, and I was also working for a museum and coordinating community engagement programs. But my life wasn't really creative in the way I've always wanted it to be. So I feel as though something lifted once I stopped drinking, and I was able to see things a lot more clearly. So within the last 2.5 years, I've created over 250 collages and had a number of exhibitions and talks and workshops, and things have just really changed since sobriety.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's that sort of thing also of the regret and the shame of, having to explain to everybody why you're late or why you're not there, and just the anxiety. Do we all, who wants to talk on that sort of subject of anxiety and with alcohol? Anyone want to pick that one up?
Yeah, so I'll tackle that one there, Liz. So social anxiety is something that has been prominent in my life since I was all throughout youth, going through school, going into my early 20s. And I used to think that alcohol would make me this outgoing person, that I wouldn't fear judgment. I wouldn't worry about what people thought of me. As time went on, the scale tipped in the other direction. So that thing that made me alcohol, that made me so outgoing, was the source of all my dismay when the next morning I had to wake up and wonder what I said to somebody, if I bombed that show the night before, how many people saw it, or people going to be talking about it on social media. It became the source of my social anxiety. So rather than being the substance that I used to curb that feeling, it became the source of it. And so I just didn't want to go through that anymore.
Yeah, it's that negative feedback loop, isn't it? That sort of downward spiral that I think a lot of people can relate to. Janet, how did that impact your sort of performing? I mean, if you were drinking and hungover, how was that for you singing?
Well, for me, even in the midst of my alcoholism, because I am an alcoholic, I'm not, I'm very envious of people who are just like, you know, just living a sober life. But no, I don't have a choice. Like I have to be sober. But for me, I never went on stage drunk because I learned my lesson really young that when I sing, I sound like a bad X Factor audition, as it was told to me many, many times. It's like, you just can't sing drunk. So I was like, okay, I'm never going to do that. But the minute I step off that stage, I'm going to get obliterated. And I can't wait. And I would just be so excited to finish a show, to smash drinks. And I think I obviously got away with it for so long because it feels part and parcel of the job, where it's like, of course, I'm in my teenage years, I'm on tour. I was very lucky touring with people who weren't addicts or alcoholics, but just liked to drink. So we pushed that boundary, and we created drinking songs, and we drank all the time. So I was living in an environment that wasn't helping, but I was creating that because I was the artist and I was leading the band. So it was like I was the person who set the bar as to how much we drank for a tour.
Right.
So it's not the one.
and it just kind of gets out of control. It seems to be a very sort of music industry thing, but also creative. The idea that addiction and suffering goes hand in hand with creativity. Katasha, I know that you were sort of you said this about club culture as well. Obviously, it's a big drinking place, isn't it?
Yeah, like I feel like what we as kind of creatives overlook, what Iltone had mentioned, is that we need to, I guess, be at our A game all the time to network, because you never know who you might be speaking to next, like who is the next promoter or whatnot. And I recognize when I was sober amongst like a lot of drunk people, I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. I don't know if like when people are drunk, they could sense like when someone's sober. So they come talk to you, or, you know, they do funny antics around you or whatnot. But it's about having a good balance. Like, I don't feel like my creativity has been, has suffered as a result of me not drinking anymore. I feel like it has improved even. Like, I have better conversations I have the next day with my friends. I feel more in control of myself. Like, I do get the opposite, like Iltone. Like, when I'm drunk, I get really quiet. When I'm sober, like, I'm like, yeah, life of the party. Like, let's do more. So definitely.
That's interesting, isn't it? It's kind of the other way around from what a lot of people experience. They sort of consider that if you're drinking, that you can be more yourself. But actually, for those of us who don't drink anymore, I think it's fair to say most people I speak to who don't drink anymore say, actually, I'm now more myself than I've ever been. So, Sharon, how has because when we were talking before, we talked about this idea that alcohol and creativity go hand in hand. And you were one of the few people that I've spoken to who said, actually, you'd never had thought that it was helping. It was just something that you sort of did out of a habit.
Yeah, I never ever thought it was helping. I think because I spent how many years? Gosh, 7 years at art college. And so I focused on art college. But I think going back to what Katash was talking about club culture, I was really into clubs for a really long time. So I think that's where the habit started. I absolutely loved clubbing. I loved house music. I still do.
Yeah, good. Me too.
But the two kind of went hand in hand, you know, drinking and partying and staying up. But I never really connected alcohol with my creativity. I think, definitely since I've stopped drinking, creativity has soared. My confidence has soared.
Yeah.
My kind of view on myself and how I feel, my relationships with other people, with my family, with friends, everything's changed completely. And I don't feel as though I'm that same person as I was before. But I don't actually have a bad relationship with that person who I was before.
Well, I mean,
it's just part of who I was.
Yeah, it's not about looking back and hopefully regretting. But just going, well, that's the journey that I've been on, and I'm still on I'm on a journey still, sort of thing. Yeah. So that kind of leads us on nicely to how it has helped us all to give up alcohol. How Janet, how has it really sort of like pushed your music forward, not drinking? Janet, can you hear me?
Oh God, the difference is so different. Is different in a great way. Yes, am I here?
Yes, you're here. We can hear you. We can hear you. I thought we'd lost you.
Okay. The difference is incomparable. Like, I am able to be present. I'm able to be there in the room, especially performing live. I am present. And as well, like, I used to think that to make art, I had to be in pain. I had to be suffering actively to create that art. And that is the biggest lie I've ever told myself. Because when I quit, I was able to tap into this well of emotion that I put myself through in the past, all these horrible feelings. And I can now, as a sober, happy person, go, okay, let's go to the dark place that we used to be in. And the beauty is I can close that door. I don't have to live in that sadness. And whoever came up with that stereotype of, like, to be an artist, you have to be sad, or to be creative, you have to be sad and suffering. I wish I could sit them down and say, do you know what you did? Do you know what you did? Because you messed this up for so many people. But you live and learn.
It's true. It's so true. It's kind of, it's an excuse mechanism, isn't it? It's a story that, it's one of the stories we tell ourselves, and it's just kind of, actually, don't you think it suited, you know, anyone who was drinking a lot to say, oh, it's my process. You know, I have to do it. It's my process. It just suits that, doesn't it? It's not, it's, as you say, it's a lie.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
We buy into
I
it.
couldn't even claim that lie, because at least people who've had like massive chart success or something, and they go, oh, this is my process. I have to do this to get a number one. Never had a number one. I don't have that excuse.
It's funny you say that, though, because when I was at art college, they actually told me that my work was too happy at one point.
Really?
I was literally told that because the work was so positive, there was a particular piece I created, and because it was so positive, and this was only, how many years ago? About 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Because it was so happy, they said it showed that there was a really dark side.
That's weird,
I need,
isn't it?
it's really weird. And I had to explore that side. No one wanted to see the positive stuff. And that's why now I'm really happy that I've got control of what I create. And I'll make stuff that's happy if I want to.
Absolutely, yeah, right.
Crazy.
It's that weird connection that everyone has. Chris, what's your take on this?
Well, I kind of agree with Janet there. I don't have to be stuck in that place of darkness. So a lot of my last album that I released was centered around my struggles with alcoholism and chemical dependency. And when I sat down to start writing after, a year of sobriety, I noticed that a lot of the old pieces of me had come back. So my sense of humor was back. When I used to write when I was in my, teenage years, I would write a lot of funny stuff. So I incorporate humor into my lyricism. And that side of me was kind of back. So it wasn't just all, written from a place of darkness. It was written from a place of hope as well. And so that was one side of me that came back into the fold. And also, I just have more time and more focus placed upon my artistry rather than time spent on, hiding the fact that I was a harrowed alcoholic. So I didn't have to spend half my day on my alcoholism and my routines and rituals surrounding said alcoholism. It was now time to sit down and focus on the actual music part of it. So it wasn't just finding an hour here and there to try to pound out some writing about whatever was on my mind that day, which was whatever depressing subject I was thinking about. I could actually sit down and get right into it, right into the creative state, and write from a place of happiness. And for the record, Sharon, there's no such thing as being too happy or making art that's too happy.
Exactly.
Right.
Gosh, it's so damaging, those kinds of messages, though. They really are.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Katash, did you want to come in on that?
School, just school. I did biochemistry at university, and obviously now I've taken a 360 turn. But the ridiculousness, I was told at school, and it's almost like we are the teachers, so this is what you do and this is what you say. And then you get older and you realize actually your teacher friends are the ones who drink the most, who probably, not all, but take the most drugs, and then they go into school and they're coming to tell you what to do the next day. It's like excuse kind of thing. But anyway, going back on topic, how it's helped me is, first of all, I think this is one that we all overlook, is my skin was way better. Like when I drank, I used to get little buttons all over my skin. So that was one positive. I recognize as well with the drinking, if I was upset about something and I thought, okay, let me drink to forget about it. The next day when sober, trust me, it's coming back. So it doesn't help get over anything that you're experiencing in the past. It's still going to be there the next day. And also wanted to say that, with drinking as well, you lose so many days like trying to get sober, because even after the next day, when you eat your greasy hamburger or whatever, your fries, to soak up the alcohol, you still aren't back to the full cognitive state that you need to be present and focused on your craft or whatever you're doing in life. So
yeah, I think that's a really key point. I sort of liken it to having a tooth, having a filling. You go to the dentist and they have to, numb so that they can drill in your tooth, but they don't just numb that bit. Your whole face goes numb and you're sort of dribbling and you're like this. And that's alcohol. You can have a night, but it's not just that night. It's the next morning, possibly the day after that as well. So it does actually affect so much more, doesn't it, than just that hour of drinking. Mm-hmm. Just coming to the comments, somebody's saying here that he or she, I'm not sure who it is, I drink and design most of my patterns whilst drinking for the creative process, but when having to actually do the technical stuff, I have to be straight. However, doing meditation, I'm slowly learning how to design without alcohol. And that's really interesting, because I think that was something that I believed that I needed to get myself going with the drink. And I also meditate now in a way that I didn't before. Does anyone else sort of, meditate or any of that sort of thing to help their creative process? Or yoga or anything like that?
Go ahead, Il. No. Chris, sorry, I saw you taking that one.
It's okay. After you.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to say, I think with the whole drinking, bringing out creativity thing, it's as all of us have kind of agreed on, it's something that we've been force fed that isn't true. I genuinely believe, like, understanding like marketing and everything, these big artists that say that they have a number one because they've drank, it's probably they're pushing a certain alcohol brand. It probably isn't true, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's definitely that kind of branding thing going on. I think we might have lost Katesh for a minute there.
Exactly. So I wouldn't take their word for it. Oh, am I back?
You're back.
Am I back? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry, yeah. So I was just saying it's basically it's basically a mind over matter thing. Like, if you tell yourself every day for 21 days that you're great, you're gonna start believing it, you're gonna move in like that, you're gonna start adopting it. 21 days to make a habit, right? So if you tell yourself, like, I need to drink to be creative, then you're gonna start believing it. You're gonna start being dependent on the alcohol. So it's mind over matter for me. I don't think it's necessary.
Hey. Yeah, I think so too. I think the sort of meditation side of things. So I meditate every day and I do yoga now, and I never did that before when I was drinking. As a drinker, I had never considered that. And I think that for me, it's giving me space in my brain. So I'm sort of switching off all the thinking and that sort of stuff. And that's definitely how I saw alcohol. I used to see alcohol as something that would switch off all of the stuff that I thought was extra, that I didn't need, so that I could just focus on the songwriting. And that's obviously now I realise that really wasn't necessary, that actually I could create that space without alcohol. So what do we kind of advise to people who are using alcohol as part of their creative process and maybe recognise it isn't that useful? What would you say to those people? Sharon, what would you say to somebody who would maybe thinking about giving up?
I'd say you can do it without alcohol, and to just give yourself a chance. Just try, even if it's just for a few days to start off with. I remember when I wasn't creating at all, I would just give myself maybe 15 minutes of creativity a day just to get myself started. And then that built up to being, I remember at one point I was working on stuff after work for up to 6 hours in the evening every night. And I just realized that I was filling my time, the time that I would have been having a drink or 2 or 3. I was filling that time with alcohol when I could have been creating. And I just thought I never, ever had the time to do it. But I think quite often we can stand in our own way. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I do believe that can happen. And I feel that I stood in my own way for a really long time. I'm glad I've pushed the alcohol aside and I'm doing what I've always wanted to do.
In what way do you think that we stand in our own way? What are the actual manifestations of that?
I think thinking that you don't have enough time. So I thought that I couldn't create because I didn't have an artist studio. I kind of envisaged that I would one day have this amazing studio. And I now have that studio. This is what I'm sitting in, and it's in my own house. And I kind of was thinking, oh, I don't have a studio. I don't have this space where I have to pay monthly. I can't because I've got 2 children and I'm really busy. I can't create because I work at a museum and I'm super busy with that. I've got all these other things. I want to socialize with my friends and I want to go out. There were so many reasons why I couldn't do what I've always wanted to do. And now I'm doing it. So my advice is to give yourself a chance to really to see the ways that you can create the life that you actually want.
Yeah.
But maybe not in the ways that you're always imagining. Those ways are right here, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. It's the excuses, the sort of stories we tell ourselves. It goes back to that excuse again. What other excuses have people told themselves about why they can't do what they want to do because I haven't got this or I haven't got that, and actually it's easier just to have a drink? Anyone else kind of relate to that sort of that way of thinking? Janet?
I think it's more when I hear people say, oh, I'd love to write. I'd love to be in the studio. Or I'd love to do that. Or I'd love to even just do poems. And I'm like, they're like, oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the time. My time's fully occupied. And I'm like, excuse me, we're due out on Friday night. And I'm pretty sure you drank enough to take yourself out for not only Saturday, but Sunday too. So that's some good time that you didn't have. But
yeah, that's a good 24 hours right there, isn't it?
Yeah, but as well, like, I feel like I think more so, not everyone has an issue with alcohol. And I think it's more so when it comes down to it, it's really just asking yourself, why is alcohol a part of your creative process? Is it negatively impacting your creative process? It's really trying to sit down and be honest with yourself and your answers, you know, because quitting's not for everybody. And I understand that. And I feel like, you know, in recovery, sometimes I feel like I'm perpetuating this, like, I don't drink, so you shouldn't. But I think most people who quit alcohol, even for a short period of time, because maybe you just have a project that might take you 3 months, you know, quit for the 3 months, see how you feel. You'll notice you have your weekends back. You'll notice you have time. So you'll also get to create all the art that you want to make, but also have some people time. Because I feel like we use all of our spare time as artists and then don't have any time for ourselves. Whereas I feel when you remove alcohol, you're actually having some real one-on-one time. I'm going to drink and avoid myself, my problems, and everything that's going on in my life. And then we're just going to float on by.
Yeah, it's so true. It's scheduling that time for yourself, actually. I think I personally feel that's quite a good way to be. But yeah, time as a sort of no time as an excuse for not creating is not really, it's just that, it's an excuse. I think you said to me the other day, Janet, that we've all got the same amount of hours as Beyonce's got. So, you know, no excuse. So anyone else want to sort of talk on this kind of like the excuses we tell ourselves as to why we can't just get down to it?
Yeah, it annoys me.
Oh yeah, the absolute the amount of time that I've poured into my alcoholism. I mean, it's enough time to create 1 million albums, you know, front to back. And I would make every excuse in the book too, just like Sharon. I need more equipment. I can't afford it right now. Meanwhile, I'm going to the liquor store and pouring my money into, you know, my disease. And like Janet, I should say, I also identify as an alcoholic and go to, you know, AA meetings and consider myself to be in recovery. But the amount of time that I poured into my illness there, you know, it's just harrowing to say the least. So I would make up those excuses as well. Oh, you know, this album just took me 6 months to a year to make, but like, oh, whoa, it's me. But how much of that 6 months to a year was I actually drinking and partying for? It would be, you know, not only Friday night, but I'd continue right into Saturday night and then, you know, take Sunday and Monday to recover and shirk all work-related endeavors for that period of time as well. So there's always time. I mean, we can make time. It's just a question of balance, which can be very tough. You know, I keep a pretty regimented schedule now, and that's important for me to do being in recovery. It is something that I recommend if you are trying to cut it out completely. Just
Yeah.
make, point form lists and stick to them, and don't have, alcohol on that list.
Yeah, and I think you said that kind of you have a list of things that you tick off that you make sure you get done, and you're taking responsibility for your own time, and I think that's a
Absolutely.
very big part of getting stuff done, right? Somebody has commented here about asking that they would be interested to know about why everyone's given up alcohol. Was it necessity or choice? Janet and Chris have just sort of spoken on that a little bit there. Sharon, for you, did you feel that you had to give up alcohol, or you just really wanted to see what happened?
I didn't feel as though I needed to give up alcohol. I don't know if that's a bit of a silly kind of reflection or not, but basically what had happened was I went into a really strict regime of learning to run from 0 to 10K within 4 months. And I remember the woman who was training me, she said to me, we're going to work out, we're going to exercise on Saturday, we're going to have a session on Saturday. And I was like, oh no, I can't do Saturday morning because I'll be hungover. And I rarely talk about this so openly, and she said to me, but you realize you don't have to be hungover. And I was like, kind of looking at her like, what are you talking about? It's Friday night, it's Saturday morning. And so if I think about it that way, yes, I probably had to give up. But what had happened is over that period of time, I cut down alcohol massively because of her amazing influence and because she was the only person I knew that didn't really drink. And and eventually I just stopped completely, because every time I eventually did take a sip of alcohol, I started getting really, really bad headaches, like really bad, from the back to the front of my head. My body was just going, actually, you've had enough now, Sharon, it's time to give up. Yeah. So eventually I gave up. So I didn't go into like a recovery program or anything like that. I gradually cut down and then stopped drinking altogether. But drinking was a massive part of who I was, massive part of my identity. My socializing revolved around drinking and meeting up with friends and what we called Fizzy Fridays, where we drink after the school pickup. And then we would drink right the way through. And we were quite well known in our little group of friends for doing that. And it wasn't seen as something to look down on. But now I'm really glad that's not part of my life, because ultimately it is a problem, whether I want to admit it all the time or not.
Yeah, there's different, these problems come in different shapes and sizes, don't they? And it's not always that clear to us at first, but often looking back, I think you can go, oh, that was a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
How
And
about you?
sorry.
Carry on, Sharon.
No, I was just going to say very quickly, and kind of that idea of having a drink to celebrate, but also having a drink because you're sad, but just basically always having a drink. Yeah. Because there's always a reason to have that drink. And now I can see that actually I don't need a drink to celebrate. I can have a drink. I have non-alcoholic cocktails all the time. My son makes them. But yeah, it's just a different mindset, really. It's a different approach to life.
Yeah, yeah. Katash, how about you? What was your was it a necessary thing or something you just thought you'd try?
First of all, sorry, Sharon. Oh my gosh, a son that makes you non-alcoholic cocktails. Can you please, right? Can I babysit? That'd be awesome. I saw you drinking. I was like, girl, Ribena in a glass looking fancy.
No, it's not Ribena. It's not Ribena. It's really good. We'll talk after.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. So what happened with me was that university ended, and I was just kind of in this limbo of like, where do I go? What do I do with my life? So I actually stopped seeing friends for a bit. And then when I did reconnect with my friends, it was like, so I stopped wanting to drink like by myself, because during university, like every Friday I would be like, okay, like let me buy a cider. And then I was gaining weight because of the cider and stuff. After university, I got into the fitness and everything. Because I hadn't seen my friends, alcohol wasn't like a social norm anymore. So then when I did pick back up with my friends, I realized like, getting drunk and stuff wasn't fun anymore. Like there's always something happening, some drama, like we have to stop the party to go look for some person. So it was just kind of eliminating that. Then I had my grandmother on the other hand. Like my grandmother and I are now getting like really close, and I look up to her in a way, but she's like old and she doesn't really have anything to do when the day comes. So at 6 o'clock in the morning when she wakes up, she's just drinking until she gets drunk, and then she knocks herself out. And then I just had that as another reminder, like, okay, you don't want to be like that. And there were so many examples, and and things like that were just telling me, it's like, you know, when you see that 11:11 on your clock or your watch or whatever, and it's like, okay, the universe is telling me something, like maybe just cut the alcohol out. So I kind of dipped into it, and then I just kept it. And I'm okay with being the responsible friend on nights out who kind of makes sure that everyone gets home safe and everything. I'm fine with that. So the tanty, as they call me, the old lady.
Tanty.
It's quite a novel feeling, isn't it, when you've never been responsible, to suddenly be the one who actually gets everyone home. It's quite nice. I like it now. So another comment we've got here, which is a really good point, actually. Someone saying, would love to hear how people manage being in alcohol-centered music venues and alcohol-sponsored music events. So, you know, for everyone here, possibly apart from Sharon, or maybe Sharon as well, you've had alcohol-sponsored events that you've been part of. How do we handle that? Do you have a kind of like anti-alcohol sponsorship stance, or are you kind of laid back about that? Anyone want to chip in on that?
So I was I had a performance last night, actually, with COVID restrictions in place, mind you. So it was a new ball game on that front, walking into a bar and having to socially distance from people and having everybody sitting in booths. So that was already odd enough. But it was my first time back in the bar scene since sobering up. And one thing I used to face as an issue was that I would use alcohol as a crutch. So when I was going throughout my night, anytime I got nervous, I would take a sip, or, you know, slam a beer, or that became a huge part of my persona as well. As I think Sharon was touching on earlier, it was a big part of my lifestyle and my image that I projected to others. So last night I just kept a water bottle with me, and every time that I felt that urge, I just took a sip of water instead. You know, it's going to hydrate me and it's not going to get me drunk. So that's a win-win as well. I also just made sure, because I am in recovery, I had a few recovery people with me. So a lot of my friends here in Nanaimo and Vancouver Island are from the recovery community. And so those people came, you know, not all of them, mind you, but some of them came with me to the event. So there was a bunch of us in the bar together, and having those positive people around me who don't drink were a good enough reminder as to why I'm not drinking, right?
Yeah. So that's great to have a sober crew around you. I think if you can get your sort of sober bubble, whatever people call it, you know, to have those connections, even if it's all just people that you're meeting and talking to on Instagram or whatever, I've definitely found that a really lovely, encouraging aspect of being online in that sober community. What about alcohol sponsorship? Anyone got any feelings on being part of events? Janet, have you had any of that sort of question? Music being used for alcohol adverts or anything?
Honestly, I don't really mind. Like, if I got a phone call tomorrow from Smirnoff being like, here, can we use your song? I'd be like, yeah, alcohol owes me a paycheck, to be honest.
Yeah.
The amount of time you took away from me, yeah, I you owe me.
Yeah.
Like, but I think just on a general note, like, my drinking was done in my bedroom on my own. I was a bedroom barstool drinker. So for me, I'm very lucky. Like, social environments, gigs, venues, festivals weren't my drinking place. So I don't really get triggered by it. Quite frankly, I wish my fans drank more at shows so that I could make the bar, you know, look good. So that they could get their money and want to hire me again. But it's fine. I respect that my fans don't drink, and I live for that. But yeah.
Yeah. So do you have a kind of like, what's your alternative now, Janet, for drinking? Do you like alcohol-free beers, or what do you like?
No, as someone in recovery, I actively avoid anything that appears like alcohol. I don't want to romanticize booze in my head, because it's very different as an alcoholic. Like, I don't drink alcohol-free champagne. I don't drink alcohol-free anything. And I think it was because I remember somebody in early doors to recovery going, but why do you want the alcohol-free beer?
Yeah.
I was like,
because I want to feel involved and I feel like I needed to be here and be a part of the conversation.
Right.
Janet, I feel like you're picking on me now because I really love alcohol-free drinks.
There's
No,
two,
I'm joking.
yeah, there's two sides to this. There's two sides to this coin, definitely. I'm definitely an alcohol-free alternative drinker.
Oh, are
so
you?
I'll have an alcohol-free beer. So I'm with you, Sharon. Totally.
I
hear what
live
you're saying.
for it. I wish
Totally
I
hear what you're
could.
saying, Janet. Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Because I think if you have a beer and it's alcohol free, then yes, are you programming your brain to say this is a good thing? And actually, what you're always trying to say is actually no, that's not something I need. I think it comes down to where you've come from. If you've come from that place that Janet and Chris have talked about, or if it's more sort of let's see what happens. It's different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And do you know the funniest thing is, I never drank beer before being sober. I hated it.
Me too.
And I've been known to ask for a alcohol-free beer with lemonade. So basically an alcohol-free shandy in a bar.
I love those.
I've got no shame. There you go.
It's weird, isn't it? I would never have had that before, but I've also done that, Sharon.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody's saying a really good comment here. Part of the problem is that society promotes alcohol as an important part of having a good time. Advertising alcohol with good times. All you have to do is look at every city and town at closing time. Which is a good point, isn't it? That actually the good time we think that we're all having often just ends up, not
messy.
so good, right? Messy. But this is kind of why I call my thing the alcohol spell, because it feels like you're under that spell. We're all kind of under the illusion that alcohol is serving us somehow. So.
Yeah, I had this. Sorry, go ahead, Ilto. You go ahead.
Thanks, Sharon. So, what they don't promote is the car accident, the domestic violence that can come from it, the fights in bars between dudes who are peacocking against one another. They don't show all the bad sides of it. So they don't show the guy who can't keep it together and loses his job and thus loses his family as a result of his drinking. So I agree with Janet. I don't think that everybody should have to quit drinking, because there's only a certain percentage of the population that has the same issues that I myself might have with getting into automobile wrecks and things like that as a result of my alcoholism. But it doesn't show that side of it, where there's a stat that reads that alcohol in North America is a factor in something like 80% of violent crimes. That's not the exact stat, mind you, but something ridiculous like that. You know what I mean? So you're not going to see a Smirnoff advertisement or whatever alcohol company it might be that lists that statistic at the end. They're just going to show you that you go to the nightclub, you drink Smirnoff, and then you have these crazy adventures, and then you wake up and life is great. Of course, they're not going to show that other side of it, but there is a darker side to it. And like I said, I don't. When I sobered up, I didn't expect everybody else to get sober on my behalf too. But it would be nice if there was some more awareness surrounding that darker side of it.
Yeah, Katash, what your thoughts?
I think. Sorry, just to interject. Yeah, I was gonna say that you don't see that side of it because it doesn't make as much profit, doesn't it? Like if someone passes, no one really cares. I guess the alcohol company still got their money, their credit and stuff. But I wanted to touch on, I can't remember who had said it, but when you enter an environment and people are kind of forcing you to drink, it does become sort of annoying, because you don't force non-alcoholism on anyone. You don't go up to someone and be like, oh, you're drinking a gin and tonic? Must be nice. Like, you don't do that. But then if they offer you a drink and you politely decline, they're like, what's wrong with you? Why are you not drinking?
Yeah,
it's almost like they make you feel ashamed. So, and it's like you really don't have a long conversation arguing with someone who's probably on the tipping scale. People get a lot more generous when they are becoming a bit drunk. So they're on the tipping scale between tipsy and so. And you don't want to have this long conversation because they're obviously just going to attack everything you say and fight you down. So I just say, oh, you guys are. I don't know what's going on.
We got you there, Katash. We basically
I'm experiencing, guys.
No, you're all right. We just basically got you there. Yeah, it's basically what you're saying is it's a one-way thing. Right. You know, if you give up alcohol, then you know you're not judging everyone else necessarily. I think that's really important.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we connect via our differences. So yeah, everybody could do their own thing, and we could all get along and have a great night.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So look, we've kind of like coming to the end of our session, and just to kind of like round it off, I think what we've established is that alcohol and creativity are not really the best of mates. And in actual fact, I think from what everyone said, you're much better doing what you do creative wise without any alcohol, and that you'll have more time. You've got more space in your brain to come up with the ideas, and that also your creativity can be a channel for your emotions and feelings that you will get back in touch with once you quit alcohol, right? I think everyone's really sort of said that. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. It's been brilliant. I hope everyone who's been watching has got something out of it. Thanks for all the comments. I'm sorry we couldn't read them all. But thank you to Iltone, Janet Devlin, Katash, and Sharon for joining us. And I think we're going to sign off now. They'll probably just cut us off. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Nice to meet you. Bye.
Bye.